All right, good morning or afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world today. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Samantha Fabro, and I work in marketing and growth at Event Temple. Prior to working at Event Temple as the Director of Sales and Marketing for a small hospitality group based out of Vancouver, BC. Today we will be discussing a few topics that we've prepared, but we'd also like to answer any questions that you might have. So feel free to open up your Zoom Q&A throughout the webinar, and we will answer as many as we can at the end. The current pandemic has forced hotels to shift their business strategy and has accelerated the adoption of new technology. So today with industry experts, we will be discussing the biggest trends and innovative strategies that hoteliers can implement to keep their business successful long into the future. I'm joined by a group of experts who are all leaders in the hospitality tech space. Today we have Bob Graham from Event Temple, Ulrich Pillau of Apaleo, and Marco Kleiner of Atomize. So let's kick it off with some introductions. Bob, let's start with you.
Sure. So my name is Bob Graham, CEO and co-founder at Event Temple, and we are a sales and catering software company that specializes in event management, sales, and prospecting tools for hotels. Prior to Event Temple, I built a national event company across Canada, which I sold. And now we're focused on helping hotels get through this pandemic with sales enablement tools that can help them do outreach, and find new customers.
Awesome. Welcome. And Yuli, how about yourself?
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Ulrich Pillau from apaleo, one of the founders here of apaleo in Munich, Germany. We have been building in the past some of the bigger companies in the hospitality tech space and started apaleo again a few years ago, like 3 years ago. And with apaleo, we are building a next generation platform with a cloud PMS app, but it's really a two-sided marketplace, which is open for connectivity for any app that operates in the hospitality space.
Awesome, welcome. And Marco, how about yourself?
My name is Marco Kleiner. I'm based in Munich as well, and I'm the Director of Business Development at Atomize Revenue Management Systems, being responsible for managing Atomize expansion in the German-speaking market. I have been working in revenue management in Europe and the Middle East for more than 20 years for companies such as Marriott, Intercontinental, Rosewood, Rockefeller Hotels, and recently the past 4 years for Mandarin Oriental. Atomize itself is headquartered in Sweden and helps hotels around the globe to maximize their revenue by automatically setting the optimal price per room type. We are used in more than 50 countries across 5 continents by properties ranging from 50 to 1,300 rooms, optimizing 20,000 hotel rooms daily with a volume of 120 million euros.
Awesome, welcome. All right, let's start the conversation. So Uli, I'd love to start with you. COVID-19 has accelerated the adoption of new technology in the hospitality industry. So what do you think are the biggest trends in hospitality tech that hoteliers should be doubling down on?
We think there are 2 key trends which really drive the industry forward and which they will have to adapt. One is really about being contactless. So even before the crisis, but even more now, there is a big need for anybody traveling not to be in contact with many people. So trying to reduce the contact wherever you are, and that starts with booking, check-in, check-out, having receptions in place. So moving all of that part online and mobile is a key requirement today. And so both the tech companies as well as the hotel companies and everybody will have to pay attention that they offer the best way of doing that. And I think the hotel guests that are traveling will exactly require that as well. And the second part is really about hotel companies and accommodation providers becoming more efficient because there will be lower occupancies now for a period of time, at least for a year, if not longer, 2 to 3 years. So the hotel groups and hotels will need to operate based upon different conditions as they were in the past. And if you have lower occupancies, it's obviously becoming more important that you run your operations efficiently and in a very automated way. So we see a big trend in the hotel industry with the accounts we are working that they all want to become more efficient by adapting modern technologies. And that has as a consequence that the entire mobile guest journey is becoming more critical than ever today.
Oh, definitely. Marco, what do you think hoteliers should be looking for when they're reassessing their tech stack?
Well, according to a recent survey by Atomize, 64% of hoteliers believe that the effect of COVID-19 will accelerate their need to reassess their hotel's tech stack. 42% of the participants are considering or have already taken this step because of the crisis. Hoteliers evaluate their hotel tech stack in order to embrace automation and innovative technology as part of the solution. In the back of house, especially the sales and revenue management departments benefit from modern systems that automate time-consuming processes and run in the cloud. When evaluating new systems, there are two major areas you should look at. First is how increase automation. Which parts of your workflow will this automate? How much influence do you have over processes once you have automated them? The more time you save with these tools, all while maintaining your flexibility, the better. Second, an increased need for mobile adapted solutions. Still today in 2020, far from all hospitality tech solutions are 100% mobile friendly and works frictionless on the mobile screen. This is the must in today's dynamic and flexible working culture. It's important that hoteliers ask themselves two important questions before changing their tech stack. Ask yourself first, which new procedures will stay relevant even once a vaccine is developed and restrictions are further eased or lifted? And secondly, which interim solutions are the most cost-effective for practices that will become redundant once there is a vaccine? Currently, there is a large variety of systems which will make your life much easier, helping to increase your customer satisfaction level, optimizing your RevPAR, or simply adapt to today's clients' needs. Like there are chatbots to interact with the customers quick and efficiently, or there is IoT, which is the Internet of Things, which is being used to control shades or drapes of the lights, turn on TV, or even alert housekeepers that the rooms needs to be clean. Mobile devices being used to open door keys, direct booking engines through hotel websites, which still a high number of hotels do not offer. Face recognition for check-in and check-out, as well as payments, guest comment recognition systems, cloud-based PMS systems with no integration costs for other integrations, or of course, modern cloud-based revenue management systems, which are 100% mobile friendly.
All right. I think one of the big trends that we're seeing just across the board with tech companies is finding ways to do more with less, especially since there's a lot of unpredictability right now. We were just saying offline in Toronto, one of our markets in Canada just got shut down. So there is a bit of risk when you are determining what to invest in. Bob, what are you seeing as the main trends from the group sales and event side?
Yeah, so I've seen some hotel groups and individual hotels cutting costs pretty dramatically around everything, right? So I think that that's probably one camp that's worth acknowledging. The other one is rethinking their tech stack overall and looking for advantages they can have through COVID. And I think the second one is actually a smarter group, and I'll tell you why. So, first off, legacy technology, I think in hotels, they can have huge setup costs. They can have very expensive subscription fees. But the worst part is, I was talking to hotels during COVID that couldn't get to their systems, right? It was on site. You weren't allowed in. That's terrible to not even be able to access it. And so with these high costs, I think people started reevaluating. Around June, we started getting, at our company, inquiries, and I'd ask other vendors, and it was the same thing. And I think that that's one piece, is being mobile and cloud-based. Marco nailed that. What Uli said about automation really resonated with me too, around, in almost every other industry, we've got niche specific solutions that are automated, modern, integrated. In the hotel industry, it's actually quite far behind in what most hotels are actually using. If you go and you look at their computers even, it's not a modern system. It's all very outdated. And the problem is it works when you have a person working on it all the time. But when you have less people doing more, all of a sudden your systems really need to work for you. And then we see how legacy they are, right? So it's about how do you trigger automated emails to make people feel welcome and know what's going on, so that you can automate what you can and then be personal with the guest for the rest of the time. So I think, you know, you need to leverage your team to do face-to-face interactions or on the phone interactions where it counts, and use the software everywhere else. The other piece I've seen is prospecting. So huge rise in prospecting. Almost nobody was interested in this topic before COVID, I felt. And now I have, you know, our hotels reaching out to me being like, can you tell me about prospecting? Can you teach us how? Do you have tools for that? Do you recommend anyone that helps do it for us? And that has been a huge shift. And I think it's because there is still business, but it's more competitive than ever to get the business that is out there. And so the hotels that are strong through this, it's because they're taking business from other properties, and it is what it is, right? It's a tough situation. I think the strongest are going to survive, and prospecting and automation are two big pieces of that.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of want to shift the conversation. One of the strategies that we've seen right now is actually as lowering hotel rates. Marco, being from the revenue management side, I love what strategy should hoteliers be doing besides lowering their room rates to ensure they're successful, not just today getting that occupancy rate up, but in the long run as well? Oh, Marco, you're muted.
Sorry for that.
No worries.
Changing the prices at the moment, even reducing the prices, is the worst thing you can do. I mean, you need to be aware that the market is not getting bigger when you just reduce the prices. It's like what you're starting a price war with your comp set, and that's not the right way. You know, I mean, we are not able to open airports or even countries. So the cake, so to say, is not becoming bigger than it is. And if you are a hotel, which is really, you know, you represent something, even if you're 1-star, 4-star, up to 5-star property, and you have a well-trained staff, and you can be proud of your product, and that product costs something. And of course, it's often hard to tell the customer, sorry, I cannot further reduce, but then probably we are not the right match, you know. I mean, then you probably have to say sometimes no to the customer, but reducing the prices only leads to crashing the price, the ADRs for the whole market. And it will not, and it is proven by, let's say, our customers as well, what we can see, that it has proven that this is not the right way. You are not able to increase any more occupancy or revenue. The only thing which happens is you destroy your ADR.
And let me add to this, Sami, a comment with an example. We've had the same situation in Berlin, in Germany, a couple of years back. When Berlin became open again at the capital of Germany, every hotel group and everybody wanted to have a hotel and a property in Berlin. So we had tons of supply coming onto the market, and the people were starting a kind of war on prices. And it took Berlin to return to previous rates, average rates. It took them almost 10 years to recover from that. So it might be a strategy short term, some people would apply, but actually it would hurt you on the long term much bigger than you would expect at that point.
Definitely. And so hoteliers, instead of going straight to price reduction, need to find ways in which they can add value and have a different value proposition on the market. Bob, what are you seeing with that on the event sides? How are hoteliers being creative besides lowering their rates to generate more business?
Sure. Well, I can definitely tell you what not to do. So I know that some hotels during this period have, you know, like I said earlier, slashed everything. So let's cut our event staff and our group staff. And, you know, you may need to do that in some areas because the business isn't there. But, you know, if you're not responding to inquiries, answering the phone, nurturing your past leads, this can create problems which you're going to feel later, right? So I think find a way to remain responsive, store data, get back to people using automation that maybe you don't have to have a person doing it, but what you don't want is just an email inbox that's flooding, that's saying, hey, we're furloughed, we're shut down. So I find just staying active, and that's a place automation can kick in, can be huge. Some positives are obviously small meetings still happen. I did mention the story a couple times on webinars, but I'll do it again because it impressed me so much, of a little cabin area. They're marketing outdoor meetings, and everyone had their own little cabin. And I thought, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of big group meetings, but if I'm going to do anywhere, it's going to be there because it's so pristine. I get my own place. We get to sit outside. Like, of course, that's probably the hottest meeting place in the city, in my opinion now. So rethinking spaces. And then I also loved, I saw Citizen M has a new software as a service model almost, where they're doing subscriptions to sell rooms, corporate rate agreements, you know, and transient business are going to become really critical over the next 6 months, I think, because we're not going to have that leisure business we had in the summer, right? There's a lot of people doing staycations and things like that. We're not going to have the group and event business. So what else is there? Oh, there's the corporate business. So I think prospecting for that's going to become really important. So just not shutting down completely, finding a way to respond so you get the business later, you maintain the relationship, and honestly, you just don't look bad. And then prospecting for the BT business that is out there. Even if that might not normally be your normal type of customer, I would consider it now.
I would add another comment to this. You're absolutely right, Bob. And I think one additional approach, rather than to follow traditional strategies, is to look at new ways of selling your rooms and whatever and services you have at your property. There were some efforts done recently with attribute-based selling as a different approach to the traditional selling of rooms and room types. And I find this very interesting because that gives actually every hotel the opportunity to start working in a different way with their potential hotel guests and customers, not so much as the fixed room types and rates which are assigned to those room types, but rather looking at attributes which are there in a hotel and how you can really differentiate yourself. I mean, in many other verticals, the way of doing attribute-based selling has kicked in a lot. It has redefined the process of selling goods. And in many ways, people were reporting that the additional value they were creating and even additional revenues were really very significant. So I could recommend to anybody to get involved with attribute-based selling and see how that works in a real hotel environment.
Do you know of any hotels that have implemented attribute selling during COVID-19, Uli?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There was a small property in New Zealand 2 weeks ago that went live using attribute-based selling and based upon an apaleo platform and some apps that provided that ABS, or Internet Booking Engine. And I think it was published on LinkedIn or so, the press release. So you could take a look yourself and see how they are doing things. They have it on their Internet Booking Engine for this hotel. So it's pretty interesting to look at how it's differentiating from any other IB on the market.
No, definitely. And coming from hospitality, I'm fascinated by attribute-based selling and how people are starting to adopt it as well. Yeah. So Uli, one of the things that you are quoted often saying is that the future of hospitality will be a tech-driven hotel. I'd love for you to dive a little more into that and what you mean by it so that hoteliers can start to implement those strategies.
So I see it from different angles. One angle is really what is absolutely a must in this industry right now. And I don't think it's a question anymore of using technology to become efficient. I think everybody has to start doing it now. The hoteliers and hotel groups that are just sitting there and say, you know, let's wait another 3 months or 6 months and everything will come back to normal, I think they will be definitely proven wrong. And we can see it already here in Germany and in Europe. A lot of hotel companies are starting to go out of business because they are sitting there and not taking any significant action. So I think it's a must to use technology, modern technology, in a much more efficient way, cut off all of the legacy systems that are around there and start from scratch. So that is when I look at what the situation is right now and what many hotel groups will be forced to do. On the other hand, I always look at the next generation of travelers. So let's take a look at my son and his friends. They are around whatever, 22, 23, they are traveling all around the world. They will never ever stay at these traditional hotels we are staying. They have all the money to travel, they have the freedom to travel once the crisis is over, and they want to travel. But they will select their accommodation providers in a different way. So the hotels and hotel chains that want to address the next generation, they have to offer technology that allows to do everything online and mobile. These guys want to book online, they want to pay online, they want to get immediate reaction to their requests. They don't want to be in touch with people as much. So they will pick different hotels and properties wherever they go. I still think there is a certain market segment there where will be room for service-heavy hotels, like five-star chains, Mandarin, Four Seasons, and so on. They will have their place in the market, but everybody else will have to reinvent themselves. Otherwise, they risk very soon to run out of business.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I think that one of the fears, I mean, the hospitality industry has always been kind of risk averse when investing in new technology. And I think one of the fears is that it will replace the people. But unfortunately, we're in a situation where the industry is hurting and people can't hire them back. So it is time to look at how you can speed up that process. Marco, how are you seeing?
One additional comment on this, Sandy, because I think there is a misconception that reducing staff and giving a better modern technology is reducing the service levels. Actually, I think differently. There are various hotel concepts on the market that have proven it, like Citizen M, Ruby Hotels, and some others, that actually providing very good and modern technology and everything mobile can actually increase the service levels and how happy travelers and hotel guests are about their hotels. So I think you have to combine both, providing real good mobile technology and at the same time provide a better service. And I think I'm convinced that is possible.
No, definitely. And we have even seen it start to work with properties just in Vancouver as well. And I think what technology is doing, especially like during this period, it's sped up hotels' adoption of it, and they can see how they can leverage it. So I know with Marco, we were talking about the revenue manager and how their role has kind of changed. Rather from data entry, they go into more analysis side. And I'd love to hear more on how Atomize has helped, is helping change that position in hotels right now.
Yeah, true. I mean, let me say that the position of the revenue manager is one of the most heavily impacted during this time, I would say, which means it could also go through the most significant changes. Talking to our customers and partners, we have identified 3 key shifts we are likely to see soon. First is there is a stronger focus on current and forward-looking data, while historical data currently doesn't offer the guidance it once did. Gathering and evaluating past performance data will always stay important, but for now, revenue managers must focus more on current and forward-looking data to predict demand and adjust pricing at the right time. Hotels need to keep a keen eye on their market to catch the first sign of corporate travel pickup again, for example. They also need to monitor how new and existing leisure markets are developing to respond appropriately. Additionally, hotels need to rethink how they can find new demand pockets and revenue streams which might require developing new business models or new concept things. Secondly, there is a need for new systems and a new revenue management approach. Revenue managers need to reframe their techniques and procedures to make the most out of the available data and achieve the highest profits possible. The importance of having adaptable systems which provide live overview of market changes and make accurate forecasting easier has skyrocketed. Understanding true demand trends when lookers will turn into bookers builds confidence. This will allow revenue managers to create realistic forecasts and no longer based on historical year-over-year comparisons or on the books data. And third, an increased need to leverage the right automations for decision-making while technology will continue to save hoteliers time on boring or monotonous tasks such as data collection and collation, a trend to de-automate and rehumanize revenue management has developed. The reason is simple. If your revenue management system relies heavily on historical data, you will need to intervene and manually adjust rate suggestions.
Yeah, and I think this new reinvention of how you can use tech, it's not new, I guess, but it is new to hospitality, how you can use tech to leverage your people so they can actually, excuse me, use that information to make better decisions versus actually trying to gather the information is really important. And we're starting to see a shift even at Event Temple of the sales manager role and how they're using Event Temple to, to improve their sales as well.
And Sammy, just let me add one thing to that. I mean, it's not like many revenue managers fear that, or even hotel. Yeah, well, what the revenue managers fear that they are being replaced, as you mentioned already, by machine rather than making their own decisions. The revenue manager, or even revenue management systems, are there to help and to assist today's revenue managers by making more accurate decisions. You know, speaking from my own experiences in the past, it's not like sitting, even working for the bigger companies, sitting in front of various Excel documents, spending hours and hours in calculating this and discussing that in hourly meetings. Instead of doing what the revenue manager has to do, is like he will shift from a revenue manager to strategic manager. I mean, who has already experienced that the GM walks through the door and says, well, what's your strategy for next spring, for next summer? What's your strategy for next winter, for 2021 in general? And often, many revenue managers I've talked to say, I purely don't have the time to do that because I have to do everything manual. I spend hours and hours on manual documents. Of course, we can do that in the next forecast meeting whenever we meet, but you know what, I purely don't have the time. Because even on not relying on these on computer systems which help and making you achieve your goals and put the revenue manager into the position as a strategic manager.
I love that, just shifting kind of how the job description, from data entry to strategy. Oh, that's awesome. So normally on webinars we talk about the future, and we're usually looking 6 to 12 months advance. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the hospitality industry and what it'll look like in the next 3 to 5 years. We've already seen such an acceleration in technology right now. Bob, what are you thinking? What would you see?
Yeah, I really liked what Uli said when he was speaking about his son and his friends. I think that that's always really smart. As we get older and it happens fast, you know, you kind of, you don't notice, but you're no longer the 20-year-old generation yourself, right? So I think learning from that generation and watching them is very wise. And I think they can show us what they want, and we can learn a lot from that. I also think, like, look, the phone, how much of your hotel tech stack is on this thing right now? Probably not that much. Eventually it's all going to be on here. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. And you should be able to run reports from here, log tasks, you know, all of your messaging. If you can't operate your hotel from your phone, it's going to be in the past, I definitely believe. And then, you know, look at Blockbuster versus Netflix. There was a time I remember renting movies at Blockbuster and thinking, how could this ever go away? And then now it's like, how did it ever exist? It just seems like such a switch, or BlackBerry and iPhone. I think that's happening right now. You know, these times in the world where there's really tough times, whether it's wars or pandemics historically, those are times of great shift and great change. So I personally think there's probably a few giant hotel chains that have their first or second hotel just starting right now. And in 10, 15 years from now, they're going to be the biggest hotel chains in the world. And we're going to look back and they're going to say, we actually started during COVID, or we were growing during COVID. And so I think the things that we do now really define us. And that can mean technology for sure. It can mean prospecting and ways of doing business, but it can also mean relationships, right? People remember how you treat them when times are bad. Who were you when things weren't good? It's a very important time to reveal and develop relationships. And, you know, at Event Temple, we are a relationship management tool. So pretty passionate about that concept and idea. And I think, you know, through COVID, people are worried about business and money. And it's almost like you need to focus on that. but you need somehow a way to automate all that stuff so you can go to the people you know and be there for them, because that's really what's going to drive the revenue down the road. And it's also going to make it easier for you to get through this time. So, you know, I definitely think movement to the phone. And then I liked what Marco said too about new demand pockets and new concepts and new systems. I think the key word here is new. Things are shifting already. They were before the pandemic. Everything I've seen is just these, I talked to a lot of big groups on the phone who are reevaluating everything, talking about like how they do business, the types of hotels they're building, the technology they have, even what they're acquiring, like everything is shifting. And it's not just because there's a new normal, it's just because there's a massive vacuum in how business used to be done, and there's a break, and we're all kind of suffering, and some people get really creative during that period. So I just think it's going to be a period of massive change in the industry, and I'm excited to see, like 10 years from now, I think it's going to be completely different. I don't think it'll be the same huge names only in software and hotels. I think it'll be probably a bunch of more medium-sized ones, and we'll be like, whoa, how did that happen? And looking back, we'll go, oh, I see. So pretty bold prediction, but I definitely see a lot of innovation right now.
No, I love that. And it is a very bold prediction, but if you make it, I'm buying a lottery ticket. Yuli, what are you thinking will look like in the future?
I mean, my feeling is that the disruption has already started, and I'm just I mean, about the technology side, I'm pretty positive. I think we are seeing new innovative apps and platforms coming up, and they will support a different way of doing business for hotels in terms of technology than ever existed. And I think that change is happening as we speak, and it's happening very quickly. There's no comparison. And I think the hoteliers will realize that the old way of working with legacy technology will be disappearing quicker than you would imagine. Having said this, today over 90% of the hotels worldwide are still using on-premise or hosted technology, so no true cloud technology. So from that perspective, we are very much behind everybody else. In other verticals and other industries, and that change has to come much faster than we imagine. So from a technology perspective, it is evolving, and it is evolving very quickly. The travelers and the hotel guests will change their behavior. They are changing it today already, but it will also happen faster than we could imagine, I think. And I'm just concerned that the hotel industry is not reacting quickly enough, because it's not good enough, regardless which size of hotel group or hotel you are, when you say we are going to invent our strategy differently and we'll put this into place in 3 years or 5 years from now. I think they all have to react very quickly, and I would expect that some of the key players which will become hotel groups will be coming outside of our industry. I'm convinced it will not be the IHGs or Marriott's leading that, because they are too big, they are too slow, they are not adapting technology fast enough. They all claim what they want to do, but there's no proof when you travel to those hotels that it's really happening. So I think we will see some other players which are tech-driven players, so that will adapt technology much quicker, and that will adapt hotel concepts for existing properties in a completely different way, that run them more efficiently, more automated, using better technology, and have put different concepts into place. I think one of the key things will be happening for hotels and properties is we'll see a much more hybrid market. So where in the past you could say, I'm a hotel, it is in a city, and I'm addressing conferences and banquets and whatever, that was something where you had a product and it stayed like that for a long time. Nowadays, I think it will become much more dynamic. So a hotel will have to say, today we sell our rooms as hotel rooms, tomorrow we might sell them as meeting rooms, next week as shared offices, long-term apartments, and so on and so on. So I wouldn't put a hotel product on the market anymore, which is just one product and it's fixed forever. I think technology will have to allow you that you sell the rooms differently or your space differently, that you market it differently, that you shift it very quickly from hotel rooms today to shared offices tomorrow, to shared apartments the day after. So, and this is nothing which you can do with legacy PMSs or legacy software. Forget about those. They are just not capable of doing that because it's so fixed, it's so closed, you can't attach apps fast enough, and so on and so on. So for me, it is really cloud and SaaS platforms which will play that role and enable those hoteliers to run in a dynamic way the properties and really produce a better as well response for the hotel guests, but also better results for the owners, because the owners of hotels will shift completely how they look at the properties. It's no more those fixed hotels that are doing the same thing as they always did. That will have to change as well. And that's really the mind of the hoteliers, which will have to be adapted.
Definitely. I think one of the values at Event Temple that we talk about is the ability to be agile. And we've seen it a lot in the tech space right now. A lot of people have changed their product offerings or expedited development. I know all three of our companies have done that in the last 6 months. And it's interesting to see which hotels are able to be agile and change their business strategy to adopt to what's happening in today's world. And Marco, what are you seeing for the next 3 to 5 years? What are you predicting?
Yeah, you know, we are in contact with a large number of partners and getting a lot of feedback from these pages. And also, I have to say, I've never participated, and I've seen so many people participating webinars talking about the new normal than in the last 6 months or so. What we are experiencing is that there could not have been a bigger catalyst than COVID-19 for the role of the revenue manager to change. And there is changes needed. Unable to rely on historical data, the revenue manager has to identify micro trends with having the tight analysis tool available in real time, and then collaborate very closely with other departments such as sales marketing to capitalize on these trends, such as an example uptake to staycations, what you've already heard, domestic travel, from where does it come, regional, in regard of from which country and city. We will see a transition from revenue maximization to profit optimization. And this requires as well a close cooperation with the finance manager, who will be very cautious to spend any money during the current times. If a revenue manager is in cooperation with the marketing manager, can demonstrate a return on investment, the finance manager will then find the required funds to support the marketing spend. And working together is the key to overcome this crisis and become stronger as a team. And let me add one thing, that we at Atomize believe there will be a huge shift from descriptive revenue management to prescriptive revenue management, which leverages technology and automation to capture even the smallest opportunity in the market, while helping revenue managers to focus on their hotel's vision and strategy. Now is the time to take the opportunity and grab the chance to prepare yourself for the years to come, I have to say. Innovative technologies that help you to achieve your goals and save costs should be in your focus. And don't wait too long. Your competitors may already have implemented it.
Definitely. Well, now we'll open that up for the Q&A part. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop it up in the chat box. But I did have one that I wanted to kick it off around. We've been talking a lot about legacy systems. And I think one of the biggest fears, I know personally speaking at our properties, transitioning off our legacy PMS to a cloud-based PMS was really scary. How easy is it to migrate your system? I'd love all three of your input on that. How easy is it to migrate your system from legacy to cloud-based? And what should hoteliers look for to ease their concerns or their pain that they are imagining? Uli, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, I think hotels and hotel groups have been frightened forever by the legacy PMS vendors that said, you know, putting a new system into place is a project of various months and will cost you whatever, at 10, 20, 30,000 US dollar or euro upfront in cost. I would challenge this very much. I would, and I think for me, it's one thing to say things, the other one is to prove it. And I think we all have to prove that with our technologies, we can address exactly that. So I would say migrating a legacy PMS to a new cloud platform should not take longer than a couple of days. It could all happen remote, including connecting third-party apps and doing integrations and stuff like that. And I would say any PMS vendor that comes today and tells a hotel, if you want to migrate your PMS, and they say we would charge you for whatever, configuration, consulting, training, installation, implementation, interfaces or integrations, I would argue with any hotelier that this is not required in today's world anymore. Actually, modern PMS and modern technology should be fully self-service, it should all happen remote, and there shouldn't be any cost to implementing or migrating the PMS at all anymore. And so we have a lot of PMS companies out there which are all legacy and they claim they have cloud. And when you really dig into it, it's really ridiculous, because what is in reality is it is hosted old software and they say we have a cloud system. But then when it comes to implementing those systems, you still need to pay a lot of money up front, and it takes you weeks, if not months, to connect it to third-party apps or third-party software. How ridiculous is that? I mean, from my perspective, a modern cloud technology in hotels, including PMS and other third-party apps, should work like on an iPhone. You have the iPhone platform, you activate an app within minutes, you can test it, you can run it, you can turn it live. If you don't like it anymore, you replace it by another third-party apps. So I keep on laughing when I hear those legacy PMS and other companies telling everybody how difficult it is and how much it costs to migrate the PMS to modern technology. So we are on a different level here today, and I think there are tons of apps and platforms that can prove that already, that it's possible.
Marco, I'd love your thoughts on this topic.
It's absolutely true, and I can only agree on what Uli is saying. I mean, Atomize, we work with almost all the common systems that are currently available in the market, but it goes without saying that the integration time with a cloud-based system is only a third minimum of the time with comparing that to a conventional legacy system. And time is money, and I can understand any hotelier who cannot understand why they have to wait 4 to 6 months for the system to be integrated. In addition, the workload involved in integrating with a cloud-based system is completely different, where currently thousands of euros are still being charged for integrating to a legacy system. Like Uli said, almost all of the modern cloud-based systems with which we have been working successfully for years do not charge anything. And that might be a major point for deciding on any systems, whether it's an RMS tool, a booking upward system, a guest satisfaction system, or whatsoever.
Definitely. And Bob, I'd love to hear your input as well.
Yeah, so I think when you're migrating, it's just about understanding, first of all, that your vendor has experience moving from the system you're migrating from and understands it deeply. So at Event Temple, we wouldn't make the claim ever that we could migrate from every system. We have lists of systems that we've really learned inside and out of how to pull the data out. In sales and catering, it can be quite different. So you really need to be an expert at doing that. And it's about understanding how their databases and data columns are formatted, right? At the end of the day, what we're pulling out is spreadsheets, and that's what we're putting back into a new system. And they're massive spreadsheets with different columns that they match, and they're related to each other. So understanding how to pull that in, once you know, it's very easy to do. It's just the learning and the knowing that's important. So I always recommend working with a vendor that knows what they're talking about, ideally has done it before and has had some success. But then Uli's right, it can be a day or two. And, you know, I think it's just a matter of making the decision and committing. So I know for myself with technology, whenever I'm committed to using something, it's very, very easy. It's when I'm on the fence and I'm kind of worried and I'm not sure and I'm half doing it, that's when I make mistakes, which is kind of interesting and psychological, but I've been through this many times with our company. I've kind of tried something half-heartedly and said it didn't work. And then 2 months later, I went all in. And I was like, how are we not using this the whole time? So I think there, you know, as much as you can do a free trial and a low cost version, which are great steps to take, I would say you look at it, you make a decision, you go all in and you commit, and it's going to be way more likely to give you success. It's just that little mental shift where you're not as worried about, oh, this looks different and this is down here, because those are the things that kill an implementation, which are so interesting, but it's very psychological. And what it is none of us want to admit it, but as human beings, we're all a little bit resistant to change, and it shakes us up and it disrupts us in a really deep way. So I think just going, hey, what is this going to change, and being really clear on why you're doing it first, and getting really excited about that and remembering that through the whole process, and then working with an experienced vendor is very, very smooth. Actually, it's nothing to be scared of at all, whether it's PMS or sales and catering. I've been part of, you know, hundreds of changeovers, and I can't think of one where, you know, it didn't work. It's just a matter, I can think of a few though, where people weren't committed and it was tough, right? And didn't want to pick up a phone call or email to talk about a question. And that's where it hurts you. So as long as you're in, it's going to be very smooth.
Awesome. So we do have a question from Victor. So most often revenue management possibilities are more limited by the sales channels than PMS. So for example, booking.com. How can this be used to effectively move away from dependency on legacy sales channels?
Shall I pick this up first?
Yeah.
I would say that, I mean, we cannot avoid that the booking.coms and the Expedias of this world will continue to exist, and they'll play an important role on delivering reservations to the hotels. So I think they will be existing for a long period. However, I think the current situation allows niche players to become more agile and faster in addressing specific needs of travelers and hotel guests. So I could see that both from a demand perspective, there are shifts, and there could be some good new players in the market which will offer rooms differently than it happened in the past. Attribute-based selling is one area where I could see some of those players kicking in that from the beginning rely on ABS. So that could be one area. But also from a technologies perspective, I mean, think again about the legacy software. Connecting an OTA to a system was a very hard thing in the past because all of those systems are closed or were closed. Now, with cloud platforms today, actually, it's very easy to connect again and offer your services through a direct connectivity with a PMS or another system. So I would suggest that it has become much easier, and the role of these channels could be important if they really find a good niche area where they are operating in. And we also see some examples like Secret Escapes or some others which have their marketplace, and I've got a lot of people, I know a lot of people that actually use those channels in addition. But I could see really some disruptive ideas coming onto the market over the coming year, 2 years, 3 years. So people that focus on offering those hybrid places and hybrid accommodation areas which do not exist in many places today. So I'm offering shared offices, midterm apartment, so offering stays from 1 night up to 6 months in a combined home working area. There could be some players coming onto the market there, definitely.
Definitely. I think we are going to see a bit of a disruption to the OTA market as well. Marco, what do you think about this and OTA's integration with legacy systems?
Yeah, let me add just one thing to Uli and to that point in general is like in revenue management, you know, data is key in that case, and forget about the past and how it has happened and comparing one fair with the other or one congress with the other. I mean, when COVID-19 teaches us one thing, that what is already possible technology-wise for the future, and like corporate travelers as well as big conferences, so we will not see for a long time, I guess, or maybe never see congresses with 5,000, 6,000 people again anymore. That's over, because the market has seen how easy it is to connect via, well, tools like this and to bring hundreds of people together to discuss that. And of course, from the cost perspective, from that point of view, even controllers of big companies, they will come and say, well, is it really needed that you fly to Berlin or to New York or whatsoever for $2,000 when you can do that via the internet? And using modern technologies, as Bob and Uli said already, I mean, you can do everything online already. I mean, sending out contracts, signing them electronically. There is, in most of the cases, no need anymore to be there physically. And add me one thing in this, making additional revenue, for example. I mean, hotels, of course, needs to be open to go new ways. And there are so many systems out there which can increase your revenue and squeeze and optimize what is still in there. But revenue managers really need to have the time to do that, and focusing on that, like upgrade systems or upsell systems, something like that, where you can add special things to the booking, or you're getting contacted automatically by the system 2-3 days before arrival, whether you would like to have this and this and this. And it works already. We've been talking about this for quite a while already, but it was still not implemented. And it's not always a matter of cost. You need to see the return on investment of this. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about high complex systems. We're talking about hours, days, months, years that developers are sitting there in their little chambers to create these systems. And of course, it costs something. Yeah, but you need to see the return of investment on that. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see how this is still being discussed. So again, now is the time to set up your strategy right for the future, and don't think about the past. The past is over. That will be the new normal. And even occupancies with 80, 90, 95% occupancy or so, we will hardly see for city hotels in the near future. So you need to find new places, new niche spaces, like Uli said, where you get where you can squeeze out a bit more, and not always thinking about the same promotion on the OTAs, like every year the same 3-4-2, the same 4-4-3 or whatsoever. We have always done it in summer. We have always done this and this and this. I mean, honestly talking, from my personal point of view, I mean, concentrating on your own channels, spend more money in that case. I know that's quite limited for some of them, but I hardly haven't seen anything from the different OTA providers out there, like assisting the hotels in crisis, like reducing their commission levels. I've seen a lot of statements like, this is all very hard, and we be with you, and we will provide you with another offer here and another offer there. But I've hardly seen anything like, we try to help you as a hotelier and we cut the commission by half or so just to assist the hoteliers. I hardly haven't seen anything like this.
Definitely. And I think one of the things about what's happening right now is, before everything was working, so the system wasn't really broken, people were kind of seeing their revenue and increase, so they didn't feel motivated to try anything new. And now it's kind of broken, so it actually is a time for creativity. So if you had that crazy idea or offering, why not try it out and see if it works? Because now is the time for you to be able to prove that inventive ideas actually can save this industry. Bob, what are your thoughts about OTAs and legacy systems?
Yeah, so I had a friend of mine who's in real estate who was looking at putting a group together to purchase a hotel, and he asked a bunch of our friends, you know, would you want to put in this amount of money? And there was a big group, but anyway, it got me thinking very differently about the business, because I think I looked at it not as a tech vendor, not as the hotel industry, but as an investment. And what I wanted to know was, you know, what recurring business do you have? What can we count on here? OTA, if you think about it, is quite transactional, isn't it? So leads are basically coming in, closing. And I know that some part of the business is always going to be like that, right? And you need that. Just any business, you need lead generation. But what I wanted to know was, you know, do you have a sports team that comes every summer? Do you have a corporate rate agreement here? Do you have opportunities to maximize revenue? Do you know where they are? And I think having a CRM database of past business, it makes it a better business because it's more reliable. You have past bookings you can count on and relationships you can build. I think in the hotel industry, we really underestimate email marketing too. So email marketing for B2C is really important. So connecting it to the PMS, but also B2B email marketing, right? So we're touching base with our groups and our events. And especially right now, it's a way to do high touch, stay top of mind, and add value without selling so that people remember. And then triggering that around key dates, right? So I would want to know if I own a hotel, hey, this team normally books 2 months from now, maybe you should reach out, right? Or you have an L&R agreement, are they on pace? Like, are they actually producing room nights or not? And, you know, bringing my top performers back and talking to the ones that haven't been producing and finding out why. So I just think there's this huge opportunity to make your hotel business a little bit more like a subscription business, or just having returning guests. And we don't think about it that way, but that's one. And then referrals, I think, can be huge. So probably you can't cut out OTAs altogether, but even if you could reduce your reliance by, say, 10%, and then you get on top of your revenue management to get, you know, a little bit more revenue here, and then target some key accounts here, pretty soon it's a more profitable business that you're in a little bit more control of. So I would be looking immediately to do that. If I was ever going to be a part of a hotel. So thinking about it from that lens was, like I said, really interesting. And I think CRM and past business and email marketing are just highly underrated and can be a huge source of revenue.
Definitely. So we are just wrapping up on the last couple of minutes of the webinar. So do you have any last thoughts, Uli? We'll start with you.
I mean, summarizing all what we have discussed today, I think there will be a big shift in the entire travel and hotel industry. And I think only the hotel groups and hotels will survive that adapt to that very quickly and prepare for the future to come. And I think technology will be the key to achieving that. It is really about shifting the mindset. And the mindset is what hotels have been doing for the past 20, 30, 40 years will not apply anymore going forward. So anybody who thinks, yes, the markets will come back and we can continue operating like we operated in the past, I think those are the first ones to go out of business, which we already see on a daily basis over here. So I would recommend to anybody to become much more aggressive about changing the mindset and also changing everything, which the way they are operating the hotels and how to adapt the properties and everything which has to do with it much faster. So from my perspective, it's about acting differently during those times and really become more active and aggressive in adapting new technologies. I think that will be the key.
No, definitely. And Marco, what are your last thoughts?
Agreeing absolutely to that. I mean, we say never waste a good crisis, and this is not a crisis like anything we had in the past. It's not like another crisis we pass through and then we go ahead and do things like we have done this, as Uli said, 20 years ago already. This has a huge impact on our industry, and now is the time to really try to make some changes technology-wise, or even when it comes to handling. That also involves meeting structures and how to set up your property proper to deal with this in the future. And don't waste time. Don't think that this whole thing is over in a couple of months and then we go back to what we have done before. Yeah, you can do that, absolutely, but you can't stop technology and your customers expecting that from you. And if you do not adapt to that, you will very, very quickly see where this guides you to. And then, then you will go out of business very quickly.
No, definitely. And yeah, again, having that ability to be agile and shift and do changes in the moment is what is going to keep hotels successful. And Bob, last but not least, we'll end with you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that I learned a lot from both Uli and Marco today. And Really appreciate these two gentlemen hopping on this webinar and sharing their experience. You know, they're both industry experts, so I think it was just a pleasure for me to be able to sit with them and you know, be a panelist with them and speak with them. And that's what it's all about right now, right? Taking a little bit of time out of our day to help each other. And they haven't just said it, they've walked the walk by being on here today and sharing some great ideas. So just wanted to highlight that and say I really appreciate it. And then to all the people that joined, it shows you're open-minded, you want to learn, and that's critical right now. So I'd say you're already doing it and taking a step. And I'm sure some you've heard before, but even if you come on one of these things and learn one new thing, I think it was worth it. So thank you to both of these guys. And yeah, really learned a lot.
Perfect.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We will send out a recording tomorrow for you to watch. And yeah, have a lovely day. If it's morning, good morning. And if it's afternoon, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank
See
you.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.